Namaskar. Thank you for watching my previous video clip on the Chausath Yogini Temple, Hirapur, Orissa, India. I express my sincere gratitude to all the viewers and subscribers of my YouTube channel across the globe, and pranam to all my teachers in the spiritual space who have guided me at the various stages of my life. That includes my introduction to the world of the yoginis. I would like to thank my friends Sanyal and Tanmay Chatterjee for their last-minute inputs while making this video. I also thank the local priests of the Chausath Yogini Temple who had performed puja for us when we went there in March 2021. The Chausath Yogini Temple at Hirapur, Orissa is a seat of ancient spiritual wisdom and power in eastern India. Locally known as the Mahamaya Mandir, the temple is about 20 kilometers outside Bhubaneswar, the capital of Orissa, and it is maintained by Archaeological Survey of India. A lot of secrecy was maintained about the very existence of the Yogini temple till it became public knowledge in the post-independence era in 1953, after it was discovered by the eminent archaeologist and historian Kedarnath Mahapatra. As Padma Bhushan, Dr. Vidya Daheja writes in a book, Yogini Cult and Temples, a Tantric Tradition, one reason why the yoginis and their temples have been neglected may be due to the deep sense of fear and awe that inspire in the average person. People generally refer to the yoginis in hushed tones, if at all they mention them. It has been observed by researchers that the yoginis are various manifestations of the Mother Goddess. A number of Yogini Namavalis have been found by historians in libraries across the country, but they give very little details about the Yogini cult. Agni Purana, Skanda Purana and Kalika Purana have lists of Yogini names which may be different from one another. Chanting these names and mantras ensure healing and protection of oneself, abundance, peace and harmony in one's life. But while chanting, if one sets harmful intention for another, then it can backfire on the former in manifold. I wanted to spend my 45th birthday at the Chausath Yogini Temple, and on Saturday 13th March 2021, Krishna Paksha Tithi, I had set out on my 5th trip to Hirapur. Anirban, my cousin brother who had shot this video, was then residing in Kalinganagar, Orissa. Since he knew that I had plans to click some photographs and get a small video done on the temple, he had agreed to help me. I was quite apprehensive if the Chausath Yoginis and the Rudra Bhairavas would permit me to do so, because I had heard that at times people have had reported strange experiences, especially when it comes to clicking photographs. So I was quite careful and observed the signs and omens on my way from the Kolkata airport till I reached my destination. Before visiting the temple, I had also received a phone call from a Vajrayana Buddhist monk or Khandroma with Tibetan Dakini Sendongma energy, blessing me on the occasion of my birthday. Receiving her blessings before visiting the Yogini temple was indeed a good omen for me, and my expedition to the temple was quite a smooth one. As we enter the temple premises, a small Shankateshwar Shiva temple stands close to the entrance on one side of the laterite pathway, and the statue of Nandi the bull on the other side, facing the Shiva Lingam. Probably laterite was used because of its thermal insulation properties and easy adaptability with the weather. Next to this Shiva temple is a black chlorite statue of Krishna as Gopinath installed under the tree. Even though many temples in India do house a Vishnu or a Krishna image, I was still trying to figure out the link between the statue of Gopinath with the Chausath Yogini temple. Was it because the temple was built by the Bhaumakara dynasty? The monarchs of this dynasty were supposed to be the descendants of Bhauma, the son of Vishnu and Bhumi, the earth goddess in Hindu mythology. The son was identified from the maternal side, and we get an impression of the presence of the matriarchal society in Orissa between 8th and 10th century AD. The Bhauma dynasty had 21 kings and 6 powerful queens ruling the region, and Hirapur had been named after Queen Hira Mahadevi. Some legends mention that Queen Hira Mahadevi took the initiative to construct the hypaethral or roofless Chausath Yogini temple, which retains its ancient power till date. There are other Yogini temples in India, but the one at Hirapur is the smallest. The temple was probably built sometime around 9th century AD at a remote site, and that was quite common for other yogini temples in India too. As per the ancient literary texts like Katha Sarit Sagar and Rajtarangini, the yoginis, dakinis and shakinis were the possessors of occult powers. The yoginis are depicted as the flying goddesses or witches, and they remind us of the Tibetan dakinis, the reference of whom we find in Vajrayana Buddhism. That also explains the reason behind construction of hypaethral yogini temples in India. The outer circumference of the temple is about 90 feet, with a 4 feet long and 2 feet 6 inches wide projection, 30 feet in diameter from the outer wall and 8 feet height. The entrance is connected to the circular enclosure by a vestibule. Laterite, quartz and coarse sandstone blocks are some of the stones that were used for the construction of the temple because of their healing properties. The temple houses the figurines of the 2 Dwarpalas at the entrance, 9 Katyanis on the outer wall, 2 vestibule sculptures of Kal and Bikal Bhairavs as incarnations of Shiva, 4 Bhairavs and 63 beautifully sculpted yoginis. The 61st yogini has been removed. I did not find any tourist except for a young couple and the 2 priests inside the circular sandstone enclosure. A nice cool breeze engulfed us when we were getting the video shoot done without any disturbances. The 4-pillared Chandi Mandap in the center makes the temple a powerful yantra. The 4 Rudra Bhairavs, Ekpada or Ajaikapada, Purva, Swachanda and Ashtang Bhairavs are guarding the 4 corners of the Chandi Mandap or the inner sanctum. The 4-armed Ajaikapada Bhairav standing on one leg and a 110-armed Bhairav statue seated in Vishwa Padmasana pose are facing the entrance of the temple. The other 2 10-armed Bhairav statues are placed within the niches of the pillars on the other sides. It was believed that once upon a time the Chandi Mandap had housed Mahabhairav or Martand Bhairav, an incarnation of Shiva. Even today, we can still feel the pulsation of the ancient energy. As we walk through the circular enclosure of the temple and closely observe the yogini figurines, we will probably notice the influences of Buddhist Tantra, Egyptian, Greeks, Romans, and Japanese cultures on the sculptures. It seems that the people of the other civilization took keen interest in the Chausath Yogini Temple. Was it only for the acquisition of the ancient knowledge of occult powers? Well, it still remains shrouded in a mystery. The yogini figurines are carved out of fine-grained dark grey chlorite, which is supposed to be a powerful healing stone and helps in our inner growth and transformation. These ornamented yogini figurines are placed within the circular enclosure of the temple and forms a yogini chakra or mandala. It is also called the Bhairavi chakra or Kala chakra. Chakra is a circular creation which is ideal for tantric practices. Astrologically, there are 8 yoginis: Mangala, Pingala, Dhanya, Brahmari, Bhadrika, Ulaka, Siddhida and Shankata, who are associated with Navagrahas or 9 planets. Yogini Sankata is linked with 2 of the planets. A special set of 7 yoginis, Dakini, Rakini, Lakini, Kakini, Shakini, Hakini and Yakini, have acquired a prominent place in Tantra Yoga. Tantra Yoga visualizes the power inside the human form as Devi Kundalini, lying coiled at the base of the spine, usually in the dormant condition. The Kundalini has to be awakened through meditation. As Dr. Vidya Daheja mentions in her book, The Matotra Tantra, which is the original of Goraksha Samhita, published by Sanskrit University, Varanasi, India, gives us some important information about the Yogini cult, and the chapters reiterate that the ancient text is related to the Chausath Kala tradition or 64 arts. The Matotra Tantra talks about the objective of the Yogini worship, which was to acquire a variety of occult powers, and the rituals associated with the cult. The worship of the yoginis in a group of 64 was a significant and yet a less familiar cult practiced by the Shaktas, who believed in the supreme power of the Mother Goddess or the Divine Feminine. The ancient Indian scriptures talk about number 4 and its multiples of 8, 12, 16, 24, 64 and 84. There are 8 directions, 4 cardinal and 4 intermediate points. Vedas also mention about 4 main directions, and later on 8 became an auspicious number assigned to various deities. 64 is a square of 8 and considered a significant number in the Vedas, Mahabharata, and later on in Brihad Samhita. Probably that is why many ancient temples across India go by these numbers when it comes to the construction of shikharas or installation of figurines. A friend, Tanmay Chatterjee, who had visited the ancient site of the demolished Martand Sun Temple in Kashmir recently, mentions that the temple is dedicated to Surya or Martand and has 84 small shikharas. Carved within the niches are the figurines of the Hindu goddesses like Ganga, Yamuna, Durga, Saraswati, and Sita, along with the gods like Vishnu, Shiva, Rama, Lakshmana, Kartik, and Ganesha. Other carvings include elephant, monkey, tortoise, Vishnu's Anantanag, and the mythical animal Makara, all of which have references in the Puranas or Indian mythology. The 10-armed, heavily ornamented Mahamaya is the presiding deity of the temple. She is mounted on a fully bloomed lotus, a squarish structure or Shakti Peeth, which is the center of cosmic power, is found beneath her feet. She is surrounded by the Chausath Yogini figurines, and as mentioned in the Puranas, these goddesses are supposed to be born out of her with an objective to kill the asuras or the demons. Not all the yogini figurines at the temple have benign human faces. Some have the faces of demigoddesses and animals too, probably because they don't belong to the orthodox Brahmanical tradition. In the Chausath Yogini Temple, we get to see the boar-faced Varahi, monkey-faced Murati, the buffalo-faced Vrishabhanana, the bear-faced Bhaluka, the lion-faced Narsimhi, the snake-faced Sarpasha, the elephant-faced Matungi or Vinayaki, and the horse-faced Jwalamukhi. They were primarily the Grama Devatas or local village goddesses and the tribal deities who had undergone major transformations with the rise of Tantra in ancient India. These non-Brahmanical goddesses had been consolidated under potent numerical groupings of 64, 81, and 42, and later on were included in Hinduism. As we explored the other cultures of the world, we get some insight into the Nepalese, Greek, Roman, Tibetan, Celtic, and Egyptian traditions of the goddess cult. I will share some more interesting facts and information about some of the yoginis and their days of invocation in the second part of this video. The 47th Yogini Uma holds a Nagpash in one of her left hands. Her other left hand is an Abhay Mudra, which is a gesture of benevolence, reassurance, and divine protection from ignorance and evil. The Nagpash reminds us of the rod of Asclepius, which is a staff entwined with a single serpent, symbolizing the healing powers of Asclepius, the son of Apollo, who is very similar to the Roman Vediovis and the Egyptian Imhotep. It is definitely not similar to the Caduceus, the Greek god Hermes, or the Roman Mercury's winged staff entwined with two serpents. Traditionally, Caduceus is a symbol of communication, commerce, and negotiations, because Mercury is associated with communication, trade, and commerce. Astrologically, the Indian Nagpash Yantra has a healing impact on people who are affected due to the malefic influences of Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of Moon. I will share some more interesting facts and information about some of the yoginis and their days of invocation in the second part of this video. The 56th Yogini Chamunda in the temple is a tantric deity, and she is portrayed in the Puranas as the last of the 8 Matrikas. She is the fierce skeletal form of Kali, representing the crone form of the mother goddess. She had emerged out of Chandika in order to destroy the demons Chanda and Munda in Varaha Purana. To kill demon Raktobij, Chamunda or Chamundeshwari emerged from the foot of the lion-headed yogini Narsimhi, who is also associated with Dakini Sendongma, the crone energy. In Matsya Purana, to kill Andhakasura, the yogini had been created by Shiva. She is also known as Mahakali in Nepal and has 8 arms. I think that Chamunda or Konkal Kali is worshipped in many parts of eastern India, including Orissa and West Bengal. She occupies the central place in the sanctum in the 9th century Vaital Deol temple at Bhubaneswar, Orissa. Her origin probably is associated with the worship of tribal goddess in central India. I had seen some of the ancient statues of Chamunda in another temple in Orissa, the Orissa State Museum and Indian Museum, Kolkata. As her ferocious appearance suggests, she is the destroyer of the evil, but at the same time, she is compassionate towards her devotees. On the outer wall of the Chausath Yogini Temple, we get to see the 2-armed 9 or Navakatyayanis carved out of sandstone and are mounted on severed human heads. The pedestals have male and female attendants and animals like jackals and dogs. As you go clockwise, you will observe that the first Katyayani holds a sword in her hand. The next 6 have female attendants holding umbrellas over their heads, and the last figurine has a sword and a bow in her right and left hands, respectively. As we see in the case of many temples in Bhubaneswar, there is a small water body or Mahamaya Pushkarini outside the Chausath Yogini temple compound on the southern side. It is also called Deep Dandi by the locals, and probably once upon a time it was meant to illuminate the temple. The Pushkarini has a small temple shrine in the center. The shikara of the shrine is pyramid-shaped, broad at the base and narrow at the top, composed of pidhas, that is, a set of horizontal platforms diminishing in height. These kinds of shikaras are very common in many Orissan temples. Near the water tank stands an old banyan tree for centuries. Perhaps it is a solitary witness to many historical and insignificant events too. The raised platform outside the circular enclosure was probably utilized for the invocation of the sun god, or maybe Martand Bhairav. I would personally say that my 5th visit was the best so far. Since it was devoid of crowd and noise, we seemed to have got lost in the ambience. The divine energy of the place seemed quite strong and soothing. I was walking around in a trance-like state, and a strange sense of peace prevailed within me. At the end, I again sat down with a sense of happiness and gratitude in front of Matungi. We didn't realize how time flew, and none of us felt like leaving the place. It was already the time of Abhijit Muhurta when we had stepped out of the temple. I will share some more interesting facts and information about some of the yoginis and their days of invocation in the second part of this video.